Hey guys, this is Rambo talking about his experience in CarbonNation. They all got their own stories to tell, but his is also a very interesting story. So let's take a listen.
I think this is like a mindfuck that most of us live our life completely backwards. Like it's just crazy how we don't even know that there's another way, like there's another angle on life. And yeah, I guess I'm just grateful, like reflecting on the fact that I've been able to transform my life to the degree that I have, like, because who I am now is not who I was. Like sometimes I don't even recognize myself. Like how did I get here? The sense of identity that I had to who I used to be is severed. Like, but it leaves me in this weird space where it's like, this is new to me. Like who I am today is new to me. It's newer to me than who I was before. So yeah, at that time, I just went all in. I just started I changed my diet. I just went completely 100%. Like in on the food. It was a good time because it was like I felt a sense of hope. Like this is new, like this is what I was looking for, like just some empowering perspective on life. Like there's another way, like you're not just a victim to your life and what's happening to you. Like you have power to control and navigate who you want to be and how you want to experience life. Like that's within your control, like. And
So that's the truth about everybody who was seeking and is seeking salvation or something new, just a different type of life. Because there are people who are tired of this type of existence with the 9 to 5 and the paying taxes and the white picket fence and a doggy and 2 kids. People are tired of that. There's some people out there who want a different type of life. And I think a lot of CarbonNation members, that was their takeaway, that they can actually create their own utopia, but they don't need Nature Boy to do it.
Yeah, I just changed the way I was eating. I changed what I was listening to, what I was watching, how I was thinking. Even people around me and friends and stuff, like, they were like being inspired by what I was doing too. And so it was really having an effect, not just on me, but everybody around me. It was just a moment in time, something that happened, and I just felt like I was just getting taken for a ride from the universe, and that kind of is what started everything. And then along my journey, I was just doing everything. I was trying everything. I was fasting, I got really into like the food, into the healing aspect of it. I wanted to really isolate myself. I was like in the mountains fasting. And I was working on a relationship with my brother. That was something that has always been very challenging for us. Because I was still immature, and I was like living with my brother, and I wasn't paying no rent, and like I wasn't trying to get no job or nothing like that, because I just like I said in my post, I had a perception of myself that wasn't a reality. So I expected the world to acquiesce to my perception, but it's like I wasn't putting out the action to prove that. I wasn't proving it to myself, and I definitely wasn't proving it to the world. And so in that aspect of myself, I was really neglecting. But this healing space that I came into, it really set the tone for kind of how I was going to move into this next stage of my life, because it allowed me the space, and I'm thankful for the space. I'm thankful for my brother. I'm thankful for everything that has happened to me, because it was all part of the process. And eventually, I knew I had to move on from that situation with my brother. And that's when I was like hitting up people. I don't know, for some reason I felt like I needed to be somewhere. I needed to go somewhere. And I imagined a place where we can work on ourselves, where people can come together and heal, and people can come together and tap into greater versions of themselves. And that's when I reached out to somebody online, and that was a group of people that were living in the tropics, and that just seemed very compelling to me. He was talking about the system. He was talking about how we're living backwards, and he was just talking about.
So a lot of people have a similar story in that they were looking and searching for a greater self. That's what it was. Searching for your greater self. A lot of times you don't search for your greater self in someone else. You search for your greater self within you. And if you think you need a change, then you up and change. But don't go to a leader, somebody else, to provide that leadership for you or a change, a venue for you. If I feel like upping and changing what I'm doing right now, I'm not going to run to a group of people to give me direction. I'm just going to go and do my own thing. But I understand when you're young and you don't have that sense of direction, you may fall into a group that is not positive. You think it's positive because that's what they project, that's what they say, but it does not mean they are. Like Nature Boy was not positive. He was a leader for the wrong reasons. So he stands as a cautionary tale for those who are seeking enlightenment and who just want to improve on themselves.
He was talking about a lot of things that were just really compelling to me, and I just really resonated with, and it made it very hard for me to be present in life and to continue to participate in the kind of things I was participating in. I couldn't focus, and that's why I knew I had to that was something that I was going to have to experience. So I ended up, something happened within that group where they were looking for somebody that had the skills that I had, and they were looking for somebody that spoke Spanish because they were in Costa Rica and they didn't speak Spanish. And so I reached out to Nature Boy, was his name, and I was like, "Yo, what's up? Yeah, I do this and I speak Spanish." And he's like, "All right, like come," and literally booked a ticket. Within like a month after that, I ended up like landing in Costa Rica, and that's when really shit. That's when like life really went inside out. And that experience was crazy. Like that experience was crazy in the sense that it was ayahuasca for real. Like, and it's funny because that's what he used to say. Like he used to say he was ayahuasca, but like being in that experience and after coming out of it felt like being in some deep psychedelic experience. It just like fuck with your mind. It really did fuck with your mind. Just but yeah, that's the intentions I went there with. I went there like I thought I was part of something that was helping to heal the world. I thought we were changing the world. We were enlightening ourselves and sharing that information with others. We were living a lifestyle and paving the way for something new. And we were making music. We were sharing content. We were creating a culture, and that's what it really felt. It was an amazing time. It was an amazing experience.
When people are going through their journey of self-awareness and self-development, they oftentimes feel as though the journey that they're going through, everybody has to experience, and it's going to change the world. Not everybody wants to go through that. Not everybody is seeking that path. So it's not going to change the world. It's only going to change you as an individual.
And somewhere along the way, okay, let me tell you what happened when I got there. He was talking to me and he was like just showing me around. He's just like, "Man, you made it. You made it to the." Basically, he's like, there's nothing else out there, like this. You landed here, and he showed me around. It was like this beautiful mountain, a house on top of a mountain overlooking like the whole valley. And I remember at that time, like we were giving our soil back to the earth, as we would say. So we were like shitting outside and peeing outside. And he's like basically like walking with me, and he's like showing me around, and I look outside, and it's like two men out there just giving giving their soul back to the earth like nothing. Like it was just like, that's just what we do. Like it was just like animals in nature just doing what they do. Like it was so natural, and it was just, shit just blew my mind, because I was like, what the hell did I get myself into? Like, where am I? Like, what is this? Where people are just taking shit right on the ground. Like I'd never seen nothing like that in my entire life. That was so foreign to me. Yeah, but it was at the same time so gravitationally appealing, because it's like I gotta figure out what's going on here.
So that's all well and good, but you have to have good hygiene at the same time. If you're giving your soul back to the earth, you're peeing and easing your bowels in the jungle. If you don't have good hygiene, you're going to smell. And I can understand now why they got kicked off that plane in Costa Rica, for smelling.
And from the very beginning, there was an air of like, I knew this was like a serious situation, because I wasn't used to being part of a group. I was used to being by myself. So in that group, like you moved as a unit, you moved together in unison. And so sometimes we would get out the car, and I'd be walking ahead, and he would feel some type of way, because he's like, why are you moving ahead? Like, are you trying to lead? I remember one time he got me in front of everybody. He's like, do you think that you're the leader of this? And I was like, nah, I was just walking ahead. Like, I thought you guys were taking too long or whatever. But from the very beginning, like there was always like this air of like competition, or like he made sure to check certain things in terms of ideologies. I had certain beliefs at that time. I was still raw vegan, but when I got there, that was kind of an issue, because they were eating cooked food. And for me, that was like a big deal. And we got into this little argument, or not an argument, I said debate, where basically I felt like he was shunning my ability to express myself, and everybody goes going along with it. So I just gave in and I acquiesced, and I said, look, all right, fuck it, I'll eat what you guys eat. And that's kind of, I left it at that. And yeah, there was many times where that was like kind of set the tone for how I was going to move, where I was like going to decide either I'm here, and I already took the plunge, I already left everything I had. I left with the intention that I was leaving for good, that I was leaving and moving on into something new in my life. So it wasn't like, oh, I just go back home. Like there was nothing to go back to really anyways. So I was kind of all in and committed. And so, we started having fun. We started making music. We were going to the river. We were, watching movies together. It's just a different situation. Like when he spoke, people had to listen. Like you had to sit down. I thought that was weird. I thought that was strange. Where I just thought like, okay, cool. I agree with what you're talking about, but I didn't think it was that serious to where we had to like give our undivided attention every time he spoke or came on camera and gave something. But that was just the reality of that situation. And we ended up going on a trip, right? So the person whose house we were living in, they were going to come back. So we needed to look for a new place to stay. And so we were venturing through Costa Rica to try to find a new place to live. And we go down south to this place, or I think it's called Cahuita. It's right by Limon, like probably like 30, 45 minutes from Limon. Is that what it's called, Limon? Yeah, I think so. So we're staying there in somebody's backyard. We got our camping gear. Uncle that we met online, he's letting us stay there. He's getting coconuts off the tree, we're drinking coconut water, and it's like life is good, right? And so we start. I think we were like drinking wine or something, and we end up driving. What was going on? Like there was like some festival or something going on in the city. So we're gonna like, let's go check it out. And so we're driving to there, and then we got stopped at a checkpoint, and that's basically started a whole thing. We get stopped at a checkpoint, and they're basically checking us. Something's going on with the car. The paperwork isn't in alignment, and for whatever reason, he decides that we need to protest, that we need to start protesting. So a lot of the people's visas were expired because at that time we didn't believe in the visas, and we didn't believe in this idea that you belong to the U.S. government, so you need to renew your visa as property of the U.S. government. We believed that we were humans who have the sovereignty to travel across countries and wherever we please as natural beings, just like a bird would travel right over the U.S. border and not have to show a visa or anything. Like we were moving like that, you know.
That's really being called out of reality. They were out of reality. You're not a bird, first of all, that you can move from place to place without a visa. And I think they got a reality check.
And so we started to protest, and we were saying like, we're humans, somos humanos. I remember he asked me like, well, how do you say we're humans? I said, somos humanos. So we just kept saying, somos humanos, somos humanos. And like the people got their rifles out. Like it became like a whole scene scenario where they basically ended up taking us to jail. So they put us in like this bus, and we're all in this one bus, and they basically take us to the police station. And it's like, how many people was it? Maybe 10, 15 people. There's maybe 10, 15 of us. We started to get really aggressive, and then the police was asking us to get down from the car. And this was all live, by the way. I don't know if anybody could dig up this live, but this was all live to where we're negotiating with them. And so they basically, at some point, like give us a final warning, and then they all line up, a bunch of men, and they just storm the van. And this was all on live, and on the live you could see where he drops the phone, and you could just hear everything that's happening. Women are screaming, like the men are fighting, and the police is just basically yanking us out of the bus, like yanking us through the window, yanking us through the door. Just complete like chaos. Like people are bleeding, people are missing hair. Like it got crazy, and so we ended up getting taken to jail. They wanted us to sign paperwork. We refused to sign paperwork. We ended up going to jail for, I don't even remember how long, but it felt like a long time. And basically, he didn't want to sign anything, so he thought that they were going to keep us locked up, and he was just super paranoid, and he thought they were going to kill us for whatever reason. But we kept getting taken in paddy wagons, like to the trial or whatever, to where the judge to try to come up to some kind of negotiation or conclusion. And every time we had to go back, it just sucked, because like the place where we were staying at the jail was completely black, like completely dark. Like it was at night, you could barely breathe. It was like there was no circulation. Like you didn't even feel like you were breathing air. It just felt like you were in complete stillness and darkness, and all you could hear was other people's voices. And it was a crazy situation. Like these people in there, like they were like the young, just basically like up to no good people who just grew up in very tough situations, and it was very obvious, like but after we left that, so a group of us were released because a group of us were had our visas in order, and because we had just got there, and there was maybe three of us, two women and me, or three women and me, I think, were the ones that had got there recently. So we were allowed to leave, while the other ones had to go to where did they go? They went to immigration jail, which is like a jail that they take people who have expired visas or who are not residents of that country, Costa Rica. So when we left, remember I told you we were camping out at this guy's house in his backyard, and this was just like a uncle of somebody online that we met that kind of gave us this connection. And so I'm like, oh, okay, we're out. Okay, at least I can breathe fresh air. Okay, we'll go back. We'll get all our stuff. We had computers, we had tablets, we had drones, we had laptops, and we had money and our wallets and all kinds of stuff back at that place. So I'm like, cool, like we'll just go back there, we'll get our stuff. And this had been like, I don't know how long we were in there, maybe a week or two since we had come back. So I get a taxi. I'm like, hey, it's cool. Like, I don't have no money right now, but once we get to the spot, I'll pay you, right? So this was like 30, 45 minutes away, and we get back to the spot, and everything is gone. I was panicked because I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do now? It's like the middle of the night, and all our stuff is gone. I can't pay this taxi guy back because I don't have no money. And then the owner of the property, he comes, big ass dude. He must have been like 6'6" or something, like just a big dude. And just he came out like angry. He said like, you owe me money. You guys owe me money. He was telling the story that the Costa Rican police had came and taxed him because he was letting people stay there. So he said we need to owe him money, and he was holding all our stuff ransom until we gave him money. And yeah, so he let us take like a couple of backpacks and a laptop and a drone. And it's funny because one of the girls that was there, who's my wife now, I'll never forget this. I was like, what the fuck are we about to do? So she just grabs a chair, sits down, and she crosses her arms, and she just looks at me. She's like, well, what are we gonna do? And I'm just like, are y'all playing a game on me right now? Like, is this like? It felt like a setup. Like it felt like it felt like it was a prank. It was like, this can't really be happening. Like, I have no idea what the fuck we're about to do right now. Like, everything has gone wrong. Like, not only did we get thrown in jail, but we don't have no money. We don't have no connects. We don't have no ability to get money. Like, everything was just completely taxed. My options were so limited. So at that point, my mind starts moving. And I end up, I said, I talked to the taxi guy because my priority was to get out of there because I didn't feel safe anymore at that point because this dude was about to, he was very aggressive basically, and he thought we owed him money. And so I just wanted to get up out of there as fast as we could to get us somewhere safe. So I just told the taxi guy, hey, can you drive us to San Jose? I got a drone, I got a laptop. You hold on to that as like some collateral, and then when we get money, I can pay you for your ride and however much you need, and then give me the stuff back. And so we didn't have no money at that point, no place to sleep, no place to rest our head, and all we had access to was a PayPal, but we didn't know how to get that money from the PayPal, like to actually use it. So he ends up agreeing, and he says, okay, I'll drive you guys to San Jose. So he takes us to San Jose, and along the way, I'm just like researching, and I end up finding like a hostel that would accept PayPal. So we're here dragging like 15 people's stuff. Like, he let us take like backpacks and stuff and clothing and that kind of thing. But he kept like, we had solar panels, we had like solar batteries, we had all this other stuff and cameras, like video cameras, all kinds of stuff that he ended up keeping. So we were just dragging all this shit along with us, like 15 people's worth of stuff into this hostel, and just trying to figure it out, you know. And that was one of the moments that I feel like, for me, like I really felt that sense of responsibility coming into like being a man, is like when shit really hits the fan and you really don't have options, and you got to get creative, and you got to really, like, when people's like life is basically at stake, like that's a different situation that kind of summons something out of you that you couldn't summon otherwise. Like, you have to figure this shit out. Like, it's like a life and death situation. And so that was one of those defining moments for me that I'm like, oh damn, I need to figure out how I'm gonna get out of this. And luckily I did. I was able to figure something out. And so, yeah, man, we're dragging this stuff along. And long story short, they end up getting out of jail later. Like, we got our money, like basically got access to money, and we started doing things to try to get out of that situation. Costa Rica flies them out of Costa Rica back to the US. So basically they're like, okay, you guys got to leave. You're banned from the country for 5 years or whatever. And we basically end up all flying together. Or we were about to fly together. This is another part. This was on WorldStar, by the way. We end up getting on the plane. Everybody's together. But because the ethos back then was like, we're natural humans, like our body odor, that's just our natural smell, just like any animal anywhere in nature. Like, you don't use deodorant. Yeah, you wash up and you clean with water, but you're not you're not really you're not really like using soap and stuff like that. So they get on the plane, or we get on the plane. Everybody got on the plane, and the Spirit Airlines ends up kicking everybody off because people were complaining that there was a smell that we smelled. And this shit was this shit was on WorldStar. I remember seeing it later, but.
So guys, picture this. They were defecating, urinating outdoors. Now, they weren't using proper sanitation. They didn't have deodorant. I say proper sanitation because if you're easing your bowels outside and urinating and you're pretending to be back to nature, although you're renting this villa, this big old house up on a hill, but nature boy have all of you going out there and easing your bowels out in the open wild, pretending that you are in the wild somewhere. After you ease your bowels, are you properly washing your hands? Are you sanitizing properly? Did you run back to the house so you can wash your hands properly? And on top of all of that, they are taking showers without soap, just water. So can you imagine the perspiration building up, the bacteria, the dirt, all that is still on the skin because it's not gotten rid of by plain old water alone. On top of that, the women got infections that they have not cleared up. So all that smell is boarding that plane. No wonder they were asked to get off the plane.
It was pretty crazy in terms of like when you think about how humans aren't allowed to be human. Like really, like there's limits to how human you could be, how wild you could be.
Oh, you can be as wild as you can be, as wild as you want to be, but just not around a lot of people who are not following that way of life that you so deserve or you so want for yourself. If you want to be without deodorant and cleaning your behind properly and not taking a bath with soap and all of that, maybe not brushing your teeth properly, oh, you can do that, but by yourself. You can't be around people who are of the modern era and do that with.
Like you have to still follow the norms of like civilization in terms of even when you're not harming anybody, like you're expected to conduct yourself through like the lens of civilization. In terms of how you look, even like the hair. Like if you grow too long, if you lock your hair, people will perceive you a certain way.
But not anymore. I think if you choose to lock your hair up and have dreadlocks, it's no longer perceived as a stigma. People are very accepting of that type of hairstyle because a lot of people are doing it, and it has crossed over nationalities. A lot of Caucasians lock their hair up. That's today's society we are living in. So no, it's no longer looked at as something that is so negative anymore. When I was growing up, people looked down on it, but not now.
And so if you're not using deodorant and perfumed up and not covering your natural body odor, like people feel a certain way about that. So
well, that people still look down on body odor. You cannot not use some type of deodorant or perfume or smell decent enough to be in a crowd and not have people look down on you. If you don't want to use all those things to smell good, you can't be around people. You can do that, but you got to be by yourself, honey. Nobody wants to smell the funk. I know I don't. I don't even want to smell my own funk. Why would I want to smell yours?
So it's like we at that time we had isolated for a little bit, and so we were kind of coming back in contact with the realities of the civilized world, and just of people's cultural perceptions of how they thought people should move and behave. And so, yeah, man, we ended up flying back to the States and going through a whole other journey. But the point of that story was that really was the catalyst for me to come into my own path, because it really showed me a different way, a different route. It showed me that you could create your own world, that you could create your own reality, cultivate your own space, create.
Absolutely, you can create your own everything, your own utopia, period. But there are certain things you still cannot do if you hope to be around society. if you are going to not want to take a bath and at least smell decent, then you have to create your own world and your own universe, and you can live within that.
Your own culture, that human, like, we're mutable in the sense that we can decide, even if we were born into a culture that we don't necessarily agree or align to, that we could decide to pivot and change and create something new. And as a man, it showed me that if I don't have a sense of who I am is clear, that I will be subject to somebody else's world, somebody else's perspective. And I think that that's kind of the common thing, even in the system, civilization, like, you're working for somebody else, you're working for another man's vision, another man's idea. And I think that just showed me to myself, and I didn't really like how that looked, for me. I felt like I could potentially, there was so much potential for me to tap into, and that allowed myself to be used in another man's world for something, a vision that wasn't mine. And I didn't like that for myself. And so I chose at some point to leave that situation and embark on my own journey, my own development, my own creation, and that's where I am now. Like, that situation reflected that right back to me and made it so obvious that I had to confront it on a daily basis, that shadow within myself. Because before this, I thought that I knew something. I thought that I was that person in my mind. But like I said, sometimes our perception of ourselves doesn't reflect reality, and so the sooner you can kind of come to terms with that, and really accept who you're being and who you are right now, the faster that you can actually move to being who you actually want to be, and express and take action to become who you want to be. So many times in that situation, I was shown who I was being. Like, oh, you think you're a leader? You're not. Look at how you move. Oh, you think you this? Like, no, you're not. Look at how you move. Like, you think that you are righteous, that you are moral. Look at you turning your eye to this. You're not speaking up about this. Why aren't you doing that? Like, so it was many things in that situation that were very helpful in me seeing my own shortcomings, my own insecurities, my own debilitations.
Seeing yourself as a leader should not be a shortcoming. It should be something that is so positive. But Nature Boy tried to beat that out of him. And unfortunately, he went for the okie doke. You should always try to be a leader within yourself. If other people sees that leadership quality in you, that's a positive thing. But Nature Boy was ego tripping, whereby he didn't want anybody else to think that they were leaders. But we all can be leading our own lives and leaders of our own self. We don't need somebody else to tell us that.
And that was the catalyst for me to come into the person that I am today. Leaving that situation, also, me and my family, like, we ended up coming to Hawaii. Like, we kind of, when my son was born, we left that situation because that situation, it just wasn't conducive to, like, children and family. It wasn't that type of situation. So when we landed on an island, we were basically homeless at some point, and that was another situation where I just realized I have people depending on me, and I had to rise to the occasion. You get to a point where you're not even given an option anymore to, or I guess you are. Some people do take that route to where, like, they give up those responsibilities. Plenty of men out here have kids, and they're not really attending to them. They're not really connecting and building that relationship. They might just leave and not be a part of that child's life. Like, people still have a option, but for me, that was more than enough catalyst for me to feel like I have a responsibility over my life, over my family, over my son, that I need to do what I need to do what is necessary, and figure out a way to create a situation that brings harmony, that brings stability, that brings just a thriving environment to the situation. And so that was its own struggle, figuring out how I was going to do that, how I was going to, do that from that situation. But that right there too was really cultivating me, putting me through the fire of the furnace, like I say, of coming into my manhood. That was for me my rite of passage. Those 2 years that I spent in that group, the coming here and being homeless and figuring out how to go from literally no money, $0, to building a life out of that with no inheritance, no reserves, no backup, nobody, really providing anything beyond like some donations that we received that I'm really thankful for, because in the moment, they really helped us out a lot. But I think it's what we did with those donations, what we did with that energy, what we did with that opportunity, that really speaks a lot to how we didn't take that for granted. We leveraged that experience into becoming greater. And that's, if I could share one thing, is like that's what you have to do. Because it's easy to blame the situation or just live a life moving forward where it's like you feel resentment towards the person or the situation or what happened.
I don't think anyone should feel resentment for Nature Boy. I mean, it's deplorable what he did, yes. But everybody who was there got on that plane and went there willingly. He didn't force anybody to be there. Now, at any point, they could have gotten out if they chose to. Because according to all these members, they said people were coming and going all the time. So how can you now in good conscience say that you resent him for the things that he did to you? You didn't have to do none of those stuff. You could have just left. But the minute he said go in a corner and stand there for 20 hours, you should have said I'm bouncing. I'm not talking about Rambo in this instance. I'm talking about the people who he did that to. Or if he slapped anybody or talked down to anybody, they could have left. They didn't have to stay.
By the end of the day, these things are here that we can use as catalysts for our own growth and development. And that's what we've understood for a long time now, is that the people that leave those kinds of situations, in anything in life really that you go through, it's about how you perceive it moving forward. It's about how you think about it, because some people will think about it and move on as a victim, and this thing that happened, that their life is the way it is because of that. And other people will be like, that gave me the strength necessary to embody a new part of myself that I didn't even think was possible. And that's 100% what it did for me. Who I am now, talking on camera and sharing myself, sharing my story, this is not who I was before. Go look at my old videos. When I first got on camera, I didn't even look like I wanted to be on camera. It was just like, I was very, I was very like quiet. I wasn't sharing myself. It took a lot for me to become who I am today in terms of expression, in terms of sharing, in terms of articulating my message, my thoughts. And all of that was part of the journey. All of that was very helpful. And so that's why I created Wild Brotherhood, because I think that hardship, that challenge is what makes you be that. And I think that we can induce that consciously and intentionally onto ourselves when we are aware of it, because that's what I said, like, either life is going to do it for you, but if life doesn't do it for you, you might end up in a space where, yeah, you didn't go through the hardship, but you also didn't get the benefit that you could potentially attain from enduring that and being able to come out the other end and be better for it, So yeah, that's why I put together Wild Brotherhood, is for us to connect, to build, and to exercise that muscle of challenge with one another, and share also the things that have helped us tap into new parts of ourselves, new development of ourselves, and just be better for it. Life is, I think, for the masculine, like that process of going through shit is very crucial. Like, it sucks in the moment. You might not like it. It's not supposed to feel good, but it's the results that you get out the other end that really make it a positive thing. Otherwise, you might not go through shit, but you also don't grow. You also don't become more. You also don't see and test your potential. And so being around other men who have high standards, that is very helpful, so that you can hold yourself to a higher standard, because your environment is really what dictates who you are and what you're expressing. If you're around a bunch of other men who have no ambition, who have no desire to work on themselves, who have no desire to grow, then you're just going to be a reflection of that. Or at the very minimum, they're going to stifle your ability to keep growing and keep pushing, But if you have other men who are always going to hold you to a certain standard, who are going to introduce new things in your life that you can grow from, who are going to give you a healthy perspective and hold you to a certain standard and accountable for your actions, that's gonna propel you and grow you even more, So I got on camera, share my story. Something that's new for me, something I'm still working on, just sharing myself. Like I'm really comfortable with just sharing information. Like, oh, here's the facts, here's what happened historically, here's what to eat, here's what to do. But when it comes to like this personal stuff, like it's challenging for me. It's not where my comfort lies, but life ain't about being comfortable. It's about challenging yourself. So I figured I'd get on here and challenge myself to be transparent, to share my story, and to see if anybody resonates with it. Then I hope that I inspired anybody, or just gave a little bit of inspiration for the day or whatever. So yeah, if anybody, if any men out there want to connect with other men, conscious men, go to wild-brotherhood.com. We're still having the gathering here on June 14th through the 18th, where we'll be self-inducing a rite of passage of sorts. We're going to be doing hunting, we're going to be doing hiking, we're going to be doing hard shit, we're going to be doing exercise, and we're going to be connecting with one another and bringing those shadows to the surface, to the light, and working on that together in brotherhood. If you can't do the event, if you don't have the resources for that at the moment, we also have the Wild Brotherhood membership. That's where we're getting on a weekly basis, video chat, talking with one another. We have the group chat where we'll be connecting. You can share what you're going through, what you're present to at the moment, some goals that you might have, and track that progress, and get also insight and guidance from other people who maybe have already done what you're doing and have more experience in that. So the brotherhood is good, it's necessary. I think that we all need brotherhood, especially as men, to connect with one another. When you look at tribal groups, it's like it's the men are usually doing what the men do and the women are doing what the women do. Like that brotherhood, the sisterhood for the women, but the brotherhood for the men. I think that that's crucial to growth and self-development and just for life. Like it's just a conducive part of life. So that's what the Wild Brotherhood is about. If you have any questions, hit me up. I'd love to connect about it. And see if anybody has any questions. Okay, somebody said, Insomnia asks, how do I connect to my indigenous culture when my own family is very removed from their own culture's history? Yeah, that's how I feel too. Like growing up in the situation that I did, I didn't feel like my family was connected to the cultural history that they came from. It was more so, like I said, it was like the equivalent of like you're American, but imagine like you're American, but you're like Native American descendant, but you only know about like the American culture.
This is why it's important to teach your children about their own culture, because they lack that identity. They go into that identity crisis when they get to a certain age, and they are holding on to the American culture, but they are not Europeans. They are Black people out of Africa, their ancestors, or from the Chinese heritage or Mexican heritage or some other group. But you get my drift. It's very important to teach your little ones about their own culture.
And you don't know nothing about like your native roots. That's kind of how I attribute it to where like my parents are Mexican, but they don't know nothing about like the lineage that they descend from beyond that, like the cultural, indigenous culture that, at some point was present. So like part of that for me, I have tried to like kind of reconnect back to that, but I haven't had any success in terms of like specific groups. So that's why I kind of, for me, I look for the commonalities between a lot of indigenous cultures. I look for the commonalities in these traditions, and seeing just how what humans share. And, and so that's what has helped me, is just to, try to connect with that general, because I feel like on a deeper level, like humans are very similar. Like we're all human, so the human experience and how we socialize and how we see the world, like at some fundamental level, like there's a lot of overlap in things that we share. It just gets expressed differently through different cultures.
Okay, folks, we get to hear a little bit of what Rambo had to say, his thoughts, his feelings he expressed while he was in CarbonNation, his road to recovery, as well as moving forward. He's got a lot of projects in mind with his brother. And so we wish him all the best. And on that note, YouTubers, I'm over and out. Drop your comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel and to this video. If you wish to contribute towards the page, you may do so. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.